The Ashland County Jail is a popular place these days.
As far as inmates that are actually waiting to come in and serve sentences, I would probably say we're somewhere around 40 that have sentences pending.
This area here is generally used to house female inmates. Currently, it's the only cell available in the jail. Earlier this month, jail officials say they actually surpassed their maximum capacity of 26 by 3 inmates.
Still, there are approximately 500 outstanding warrants and commitments in the county. Some require jail time, but most are for failure to appear in court. Think it's a serious problem?
It could be. One of these people could go out there and cause a serious crime. But usually they're not, these people are not the violent offenders.
Dust admits this problem is just the tip of the iceberg. The jail itself is completely outdated. Built in 1957, the structure needs a complete overhaul, but that takes time and money, 2 things that Ashland County are short on. Janine Johnson, News 6.
There's too much to copy.
I know.
It's a not-for-profit.
We are required to submit to the city by February 15th a statement of our receipts and disbursements. And that's a huge document. It's all of the transactions that this hospital has participated in through the year. If we were to comply carte blanche with that rule, it would put us in direct violation of another rule, which is the Federal Data Privacy Act.
Between 1980 and 1990, the 7-county area of northeast Minnesota lost 10% of its total population. And while those who moved away may have expressed a desire to return, the fact of the matter is there aren't enough employment opportunities available. We're left with the state's highest unemployment rate, household income 27% below the state average, and a poverty rate 3% higher than the rest of Minnesota. We also have an abundance of people in our Arrowhead region over retirement age. In fact, 20% of our total population is over the age of 65, and 5% are over 85. We begin to think in terms of the young old, the old, and the old. And we begin to see more and more of this. Senior centers that are becoming the focal points of many of our smaller communities, like this one in Two Harbors. In fact, in some Northland communities, you'll find more senior centers and nursing homes than you will daycare centers for kids.
Try to utilize the aging population as a resource and not really ponder on the fact that we probably have a lot more retirees in the community than we have young people.
As the mayor of Two Harbors, Wayne Sletton knows what it's like to try to build a tax base by attracting new businesses requiring young workers in a community filled with senior citizens.
If you're seeking a progressive economic climate based on true American values...
This Two Harbors promotional video boasts about the area's labor force and the natural beauty and tourist opportunities of northeast Minnesota.
And profit from the Two Harbors experience.
Live life to its fullest, and we think we probably have the best place in the world to come to.
Living life to its fullest is part of the problem in attracting new business to Two Harbors and Lake County. With seniors staying in their homes longer, there just isn't enough housing stock available on the market to attract young families, even if the jobs were there. No one's suggesting that economic development problems are due to an abundance of elderly, but sometimes public perception can become twisted, and at times it's almost as if people forget that the aging process is unavoidable.
It's not the old people's fault that they're still here. It's just the reality.
Ann Tellett knows a lot about the senior experience, but so does Dorothy Cedarberg. Their thoughts in part 2 of The Gray Factor and Aging in the Arrowhead.
for the area in which we live, and I will continue. At the same time, I have to look at the budget and find out that
a smaller remodel school, and in all cases,
It's money, money, money. That's all you talk about. I hope that the people in this town of Warba have enough courage or whatever it takes to finally start their own private public school when you get finished making your decision based on money.
Later, I'm staying home, you hadn't quite caught all of that.
And you do not pass that bond issue, then you are no. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
In fact, among the aged, those over 85 have shown the strongest gains since the 1970s, and this group will expand even more before we hit the new century. In Aiken County, the aging pattern is such that there have been years when there were fewer births than deaths. Throughout the region, the increase in elderly has led to community and societal problems we've not experienced on this scale before.
I would say the biggest reality of why it's true is because there are many, many older people that are also in poverty.
Ann Tellett directs the Arrowhead agency that deals with aging issues. She works with about $1 million a year budget, and much of it is focused on helping seniors cope with poverty. 60% of the region's seniors live on their Social Security income, and most find themselves less than $2,000 above the official poverty rate of $6,600. Without some of the government programs in place, many seniors would be in trouble. But there's a whole new industry in serving older people that's starting to see the benefits.
Developers are starting to realize that they can develop housing or different programs with services, or develop home care, or develop adult foster care, things that are helpful to seniors and also provide employment to people.
But not all seniors require assistance. Many continue to be strong advocates of change on their own. Dorothy Cederberg heads the area's senior coalition.
I know the young people feel that we're after everything, but the things that we work on are for everybody, for you as well as for us.
Most recently, Dorothy Cederberg lobbied for changes in health care and for those who struggle to make ends meet.
By the time she paid her rent, health insurance, and bought her prescription drugs, she had $43 to live on for the rest of the month. Now, can any of you live on that small amount?
Dorothy Cederberg says she has the time to press social issues, time for her to give back to her community, and don't ever doubt her enthusiasm for her pet projects.
I'd like to have some of you young people keep up with us.
Can't bid against another big corporation. I mean, you know, I don't want to use the word scared, unsure of themselves, but we've been unsure for about 12 years now, ever since Triangle took over, so.
Barnum on a Saturday afternoon, and while the music may be that which appeals more to one half of this group than the other, it doesn't stop both groups from getting along and enjoying the experience.
And I think we have to start looking at the fact that we're all in this together. It's really a fallacy that's created by us segmenting our population so much and saying that seniors are somehow different than all of the rest of us and kids are somehow different.
As director of the Arrowhead Agency on Aging, Ann Tellett is a strong supporter of intergenerational activities. They help keep the elderly in touch, she says, and it's not true they oppose everything.
They want their community to do well just as much as all of us do. Those are their grandkids. They many times have a real stake in seeing things improved, and I think they get a bad rap a lot of times.
Dorothy Cedarberg says she knows firsthand that it's not always the elderly who are against projects for the young.
This is what shocks me. The older people are voting for it, and the young people are voting against it. I've heard more remarks working on the election board.
In reality, I think we all have to look at it as our future, hopefully. The reality is that we are all aging, and my hope is that we would start to see that as a time of new opportunities rather than seeing it as a negative.
So there's more to this dance in Barnum than having fun for a few hours. There's bridges being built here that hopefully will last long into the future.
Douglas County has owned and operated the Middle River Healthcare Facility for nearly 3 decades, but after steadily losing money, $500,000 this year alone, the county wants to get out of the nursing home business. Douglas County has 2 options. It can either build a new $6.5 million facility or sell Middle River to a private owner. Lulu Halverson visits her brother every day. She says the care is excellent, but isn't sure it will be if a private owner comes in.
Sometimes I feel that a lot of them are more for the business than for the care of the people.
If the facility is sold, employees will make about the same in wages, but they will see a substantial cutback in health and retirement benefits. The nursing home administrator says that, too, could affect the quality of care.
Because we have fairly decent wage levels and higher health insurance coverages and retirement, people do not leave, and if they stay, there's a tendency to provide better quality care.
The care will never be the same. Right now, we have a fine, loving staff. We love our residents, and we're not here just because of our job. We really care.
Dave Dumke, chairman of the Douglas County Board, says no matter what the county decides, changes need to be made. If Middle River is not sold, a new $6.5 million facility will be built at the taxpayers' expense. And to cut costs later on, staff reductions are expected. County voters will help decide the issue on an April 6th referendum. In Douglas County, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
And the Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance, normally, if we had been irresponsible, I do not wish to criticize the governor for his proposal. On the surface, a tax freeze is a novel approach. The problem is that there are too many variables and too many inequities. I publicly plead with Governor Thompson to come to some other conclusion than his proposed tax freeze.
There was an incredible amount of public sentiment in this case. Prior to Mr. Madsen even being charged, I think most of the community already had him convicted. He's in jail for having harmed her before. He gets work release privileges to go to the very home where she's staying, therefore he must be guilty.
Madsen was on work release from his conviction for battering Clemens at the time she was murdered. Madsen was allowed to go to her home to run his business. In today's hearing, Madsen's brother testified that he was there the day of the murder. He thought he recalled a hug and a kiss as Madsen left Clemens. He says they were out of his sight for under a minute. In ruling on the case, Hammond says there was no evidence showing any sign that Madsen had been in a struggle. Advocates against domestic violence say they were shocked by the ruling.
It was a disappointment to know that another person's life had been lost, and there are so many questions.
When a Denfeld student was expelled for waving an American flag at a hockey game where a Russian athlete was playing, it raised new questions about an old problem, prejudice in our schools.
And I have friends from all different races, you know, that doesn't bother me at all. But it's just there's some people who are still prejudiced.
Cloquet High School student Amy Peglarini and some of her friends have felt the sting of racism from their peers.
And I see a lot of it because I'm of mixed blood. I'm Italian and Indian, and so a lot of kids are on me in my class, in my Indian classes, because they feel that I don't belong there since I'm of mixed blood. They treat me with no respect.
At Cloquet High School, students are getting a lesson on respect for all people's cultures. Recently, many students sat in on a class about Indian culture.
The only thing that we have to fear is the unknown, and this kind of thing makes that kind of a culture more aware. And when we see the things happening, then we become more intelligent and we don't lash out the things that we don't understand.
We also have signals that we use inside.
Tim Blue teaches a course on Indian and white relationships at the University of Minnesota Duluth. He says although the groundwork has been laid, more work needs to be done to tear down old stereotypes.
We need to perceive those differences as a positive thing because this nation really is not a melting pot, but what we are is a diversified cultural society, and that's our main strength.
Educators and students alike say strengthening the lines of communication is perhaps the first step in accepting one another's differences. In Cloquet, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
And that dictates grading, so we might as well start the tech. That's why we started in the middle, coupled, of course, with the grading we were already doing there and the economies associated with the two projects going at once.
Who shot that?
No, it's not. It is something that is known throughout the world. It's a photographic art that is known throughout the world, and we thought, seeing this as a hometown of Eric Enstrom, that we should do something in his memory and also in memory of the photograph.
It might be a little more. It's hard to say. You know, it's always a matter of buyer and seller. What I'm giving you is a fair market. This is a cute little.
We had a lady come in one day with a wonderful cameo vase by a famous French maker named Émile Gallet. I had a pair of Louis Icard prints. He was an illustrator from the 1920s. So we've had, and those were ranged in the $2,000 to $3,000 category, so they were pretty good finds.